So it's about that time. We've got 2 weeks left in the NFL regular season. It's time to give you an updated 2021 NFL mock draft. Aren't you excited? I know I sure am. So this version's a one-round edition. You can check out all 32 picks in the description box down below. And if you enjoy this mock draft, make sure you smash that subscribe button. And if you don't, still smash it. So that way every time I post a mock draft in the weeks and months to come, you can come back and crap on me and tell me how terrible my mock drafts are. Either way, attention is cool is all I'm saying. So let's get into the nitty-gritty titty here and talk about this mock draft. The first thing I got to talk about is obviously the heartbreak for Jets fans last week. Like, this is the twisted, warped world that we live in, but nonetheless, it is what it is. Like, you have a vision, you have a goal, and then you see it all potentially go up in smoke as your team wins a game. You didn't want that. You didn't ask for that. You didn't need it. And you feel like it potentially puts you in a disastrous situation because with that win, the Jets, if the season ended right now, would technically be holders of the number 2 overall pick in the first round. The Jags, with the same record but a softer strength of schedule, actually would go up to number 1 and make them potentially the winner of the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. Stick that in your Christmas stocking and smoke it, huh? Merry Christmas, Jets fans! Now, plenty of things can still happen in the next 2 weeks. Your Jets could be dumb enough to win another game and then pretty much just take themselves completely out of the mix. The Jags could win a game and you go right back to the normal order of things. You know, all I'll say for Jacksonville is week 16. So it'd certainly be a fantastic, splendiferous time to get your second win of the year. You know, help the Jets out, help another team that maybe plays in Chicago out. You know, put an end to the mediocrity. Like, would be okay with me. But as a result, because of what happened last week, the Jags are now sitting there with the number 1 overall pick and stumbling after winning their first game of the year, losing 13 in a row. Hey, go big or go home. They're now put themselves in a position where they could draft Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson and potentially change the trajectory of their franchise for a decade plus. Meanwhile, that puts the Jets at number 2, and the way I see things are shaking out right now, the way they seem to be playing out right now, is that Zach Wilson has passed Justin Fields in terms of the draft as being QB2, and probably by a good little bit. Now, you could ask some questions about Zach Wilson and whether or not this is kind of a one-year flash in the pan, or if this is more of an indication of this kid's got major upside and potential that he's just starting to realize and it's just starting to be unleashed. But the Jets sitting there at the second pick, and I talked about it before in other videos, Jets fans, not all is necessarily lost. Because you have plenty of times where you could think of that, you know, the top quarterback in the draft was not taken with the first overall pick. 2004. Like, Eli Manning was taken first, and he was clearly the 3rd best quarterback in that draft. 2005, Alex Smith went number 1 overall. Aaron Rodgers went 24th. You know what I mean? 2006, Vince Young went 3rd overall. Technically, out of him and Leinart and Cutler, it was Cutler that had by far the best career. You get what I mean? Like, doesn't always have to be bad. Like, 2012, you want to talk about Andrew Luck. Yeah, that's great. He was supposed to be the once-in-a-generation type of talent, but Russell Wilson is the best quarterback out of that class, and that would still be true even if Andrew Luck was playing. And he's not, and you've still got Tannehill as a starter in the league, and you could argue he's playing the best football of his career. So you go on and on with examples throughout the years. I'll go back to when you had another generational type of talent in 1983 with John Elway. He ended up being a great NFL quarterback, Hall of Famer. You know, but Dan Marino was a better NFL quarterback. Period. So sometimes when you look at some of these guys now in 98, Peyton Manning was clearly the best quarterback in his draft class. That proved out to be true. He was a generational type of guy. So sometimes the generational guys end up being generational guys, and sometimes they end up being some form of generational guy while still not even being the best quarterback in their class. So not all hope is lost. And that is also important for fans of other fan bases to kind of keep in mind is that franchise-changing quarterbacks do not have to be found with the first overall pick. You could say with the Cleveland Browns in 2018, they took Baker Mayfield number one. He's been playing well this year, but I still would personally take Josh Allen. Josh Allen was my QB1 in that draft, and I still stand by that. Lamar Jackson was in that draft. He was the last pick in round one, and he was league MVP last year. So you could both get the great quarterback at the top, and other options could potentially work out just as well, if not better. So if you're a Jets fan right now, should you really feel that bad if you end up with a Zach Wilson instead of a Trevor Lawrence? I'm just saying. I think it would be more interesting if the Bengals were in a position where they were drafting number one or number two overall. Because do you move on from Joe Burrow? And I know that seems slanderous and has zero likelihood of actually happening. But even when healthy, Burrow is a smart player, accurate passer, but he's got a noodle arm, man, and not just a less than cannon arm, like he has a less than pea shooter arm. So you're going to be limited offensively what you could do with that arm talent or lack of arm talent. But the Bengals are picking third. It sure seems like the Sewell kid from Oregon, at this moment at least, and a lot can change in the months to come, will certainly be a logical pick. And if you're going to build around Joe Burrow, absolutely. Building up that offensive line and protecting your young quarterback better would certainly be the way to go. Carolina at 4, especially if you're finishing in this spot, if you have a quarterback like a Justin Fields that you feel comfortable with, then you have to take him regardless of how much money you have invested in Teddy Bridgewater, because if you're picking this high, then that means Bridgewater, who started all year, he ain't the guy. You know what I mean? Like, if there's a quarterback there that makes sense, then you absolutely must take him, even if you feel like you're reaching a little bit, because if that quarterback develops into what you believe they could, then it doesn't matter where you took him in the draft. Then you get to a team like Atlanta. You can look at a lot of these teams picking in the top half of round one, and you can make a case for quarterback for one reason or another. You can say Atlanta, like, do you want to continue to tie yourself to Matt Ryan long term? Is it time to really start thinking about the long term future? Or do you sit there and draft the best available defensive player? What do you do? In this case, I've got him taking the corner Surtain from Alabama. And again, that still strikes me as so odd. Like, I feel like it's a misprint when I'm putting names like last year, Antoine Winfield Jr., and this year, Patrick Surtain II. This is weird, man. It means I'm getting old. I think some of you Dolphins fans might freak out a little bit that I have the tight end from Florida going 6 to them because they've already got Gesicki. Is there anything against the law of having 2 tight ends that could be playmakers? Because this Pitts kid sure feels like he's special. Like, do any of the wide receivers feel better than very good? Do they truly feel special? Like, if we say Devonta Smith, Smith looks like he could be an outstanding talent, but there's going to be concerns about the size profile. And the fact that a lot of guys with this size profile haven't made it in the league or been really successful in the league. There have been guys that have, yes, and he certainly seems like he's equipped to do so. But if you're the Dolphins, with the depth of talent in the QB class, can you afford to, or not the QB class, excuse me, the wide receiver class, can you afford to wait on that position for your other pick in round one, which is what I've got them doing when they take Terrance Marshall. As far as other teams, like you could look and say, Dallas, like, do you potentially move on from Dak Prescott? I don't think so. I think you got to address that offensive line that used to be a strength that now is not anymore. The Chargers have their quarterback, for sure, time to help him out, whether that's offensive line or skill players. You got to help the kid out. You look at the Giants and you could make an argument of saying, hey, when it comes to the quarterback position, do you really have confidence that Daniel Jones is a guy? Like, do you want to get to a position where you're potentially tying yourself to him for the next half decade plus? Thinking about, another year and then start thinking about a contract extension? That would scare me if I was the Giants organization. It certainly would scare me if I was a Giants fan, that's for sure. San Francisco is going to be potentially in the market for a quarterback. Denver, you never know. They could be. New England certainly could be, which is why I've got them taking Trey Lance from North Dakota State, which unfortunately means, sorry, Bears fans, since those dummies decided they wanted to start winning meaningless games in a mediocre crap season, all they're doing now is costing themselves draft position and screwing the pooch here and potentially screwing up the future for many years to come. because that's the mediocrity of the McCaskey way, and that's exactly the type of thing that the Chicago Bears would do. I think some Bears fans might be reasonable enough to say, hey, you know what, if you miss out on one of those top quarterbacks, it makes no sense to massively reach for one. It might make sense to build up offensive line or get some more talent at wide receiver, especially if you assume Allen Robinson's not going to be back. And in this case, I'm going to take a Darrisaw, the offensive tackle from Virginia Tech, because offensive tackle is certainly a need for the Bears, because their tackles stink. Their interior line play has been better recently, but their tackles stink. Leno and Massey both need to be replaced. They're doo-doo. They can go. But as you look at this draft, you'll notice I have Kyle Trask dropping out of round 1 here. Yeah, there's still a piece of me like, even if the talent is there to support a Trask being a round 1 pick, and I don't believe that it fully is, at this moment at least, there's still that piece of, would I really believe that 6 quarterbacks would go in the first round in this draft? I don't know. Like, even 5 seems a bit ambitious right now. I certainly feel pretty confident that 4 will go, and it could be 5. But 6 feels like a really, really big reach. But that could be just me. So anyways, this is what I've got slated for my updated mock. I'll be back with another one. This is like an early Christmas Eve present for you, so I hope you enjoy. After Week 17 of the regular season is finished, and before I really hammer into those team-by-team season recaps for those teams that are eliminated from the playoffs or teams that didn't make the playoffs, I'll make sure I get out another mock draft, because that will at least have the finalized draft position for the first 18 teams. So, again, smash the subscribe button if you want to see more mock drafts come up from me in the months to come. And hope you enjoyed this one. Tell me what you think of my mock. Tell me what you want your team to do in this upcoming draft. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, I'm out.